What's up everybody, Jeff here, and I've done a couple of videos talking about the interior of Malifaux City and what you can find in some of the neighborhoods in there. So now I thought it would be a good time to talk about what's outside of Malifaux City in the larger world. So let's take a look at the world map here, and we can see that the world is sort of divided up into 4 different biomes. You have the Badlands to the south, the Bayou to the east, the Northern Hills to the north, and the Knotwoods to the west. So let's take them in order and talk about a couple of important things that you might find in these different places. Now obviously we're not going to talk about everything, because each one of these could really have its own video. So I guess let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. But anyway, if you were to head south from Malifaux City, the first place you would find would be Edge Point. It's an unusual city on the edge of the bayou, and it's known to be one of the most peaceful places in all of Malifaux. The guild presence is pretty light, and you can actually find some gremlins there doing business and trading with humans. Not a bad place all around, if you can tolerate the smell from the bayou. If you go a bit further south, you'll eventually stumble upon the Latigo stronghold, which is a large compound where Perdita and her family set up shop, and it serves as the base of their monster hunting operation. Now the Badlands themselves are a huge desert, and if you can survive the trip and head to the west, then you might stumble upon Freehold. This town was established by the mercenaries of Malifaux, under the leadership of Von Schill and the Free Corps, after the new Governor-General took over and outlawed mercenary work. They found themselves between a rock and a hard place, not being able to overthrow the guild, but having no other way to make a living. So they decided to get further away from the guild's jurisdiction, where they could continue doing their work, and it wouldn't be worth the effort for the guild to come after them. You can also find Debtor's Delve, an iron and stone quarry, where citizens who default on their debts to the guild are sent to do hard labor. It's got surprisingly low security, the guild relying on the isolation of the Badlands to keep the prisoners from escaping. The far west of the Badlands used to be just as desolate and barren as the rest, but here we can find Nythera, the prison that held the Fey Queen Titania for many centuries. Once she was released, the plants and animals began reasserting themselves until it became a primeval forest where Titania now holds her autumn court. Somewhere in the Badlands, in the ancient times, the Awa constructed their large cities, building constructs and forging weapons to fight off the tyrants. The Bayou is a swampland full of all sorts of dangerous creatures. Gators, Silurids, and Skeeters might seem like the most dangerous predators around, but the gremlins are easily the most dangerous, due to their large numbers and their unpredictable nature. The Bayou itself is divided up into many different territories, each belonging to one gremlin family, and border skirmishes, raids, and outright wars often flare up between the different groups. Some of the gremlins that live closer to the humans have developed a culture of trade and relatively peaceful cooperation, while others use their proximity as an opportunity to steal. The Bayou also houses the Red Cage, a giant hole in the ground, the result of a magical prison that came crashing down. From inside came the Red Cage abominations, machine and flesh hybrids that attack anything they see, and still remain a mystery to this day. Kythera is perhaps one of the most important monuments in all of Malifaux. The structure is actually an ancient machine, a portal to another realm where the Grave Spirit lurks. Titania used it to try to defeat the tyrants, but when her subordinates found out what she was doing, they stepped in and put a stop to it. More recently, several different groups tried to use Kythera to their advantage, and as a result, it was destroyed by Ramos's Leviathan. Before the Tyrant Wars, the Bayou was actually an archipelago of islands that housed Malifaux's sister city, Sancor Sid. When the Tyrant War kicked off, the city was destroyed and sunk beneath the waves, and over the many centuries, the influence of the Grave Spirit and Kythera warped the land and turned it into the Bayou we know now. Remnants of this ancient city can still be found, and all manner of strange artifacts and mutated creatures can be found in the area. On the other side of the bayou, we now know that Malifaux has an ocean, and as you might expect, it's full of horrible creatures and strange mysteries. Just to the north of Malifaux City is the Breach, the primary portal that leads from Earth to Malifaux, and is heavily guarded by the Guild. The rest of the region is comprised of reddish-brown hills, and is fairly open and barren, with little in the way of vegetation. The northern hills have a high concentration of soulstones, so many contract towns have sprung up, and prospectors who are looking for their fortune. If you were to take the train to the north, you could find yourself in the town of Ridley, the largest settlement in the whole region. It started as a simple rail station, and grew from there, until it developed a large population with its own government that works in tandem with the guild presence. You could continue your train journey to the south and east to come upon the Hollow Point pumping station, the brainchild of Dr. Ramos. This massive facility serves the purpose of draining water out of nearby mines and emptying it into the Frost Run, a river that flows from the 10 Peaks into the bayou. The station itself is a hotbed of Union activity, and the area around the pumping station is unusually fertile, so many villages and settlements have cropped up in the area. Further north, you can find the town of Promise, a settlement established by the Ten Thunders as a landing point for immigrants who come through their hidden breach. This secret portal, under the control of the crime syndicate, leads from mainland China to the northern mountains, and has given the Ten Thunders access to Malifaux for several centuries. They used it to expand their smuggling, and once the main breach opened, they began moving their people into the city, avoiding the guild's notice. This series of mountains that enclose the whole north of Malifaux are hostile terrain, covered in a layer of snow and hiding mysterious creatures. But the most dangerous of all is the presence of the Cult of December to the west. This group of cannibals worships the tyrant December, and they've been known to perform raids on human settlements, taking the inhabitants and consuming their flesh. Finally, we have Ampersand, a small town hidden from the guild that's inhabited by disaffected constructs who have escaped their life of servitude. They operate by their own rules and have little contact with the outside world, though some humans have been known to go there. As if all those other places weren't horrible enough, one of the most feared places in all of Malifaux is the Knotwoods. This is the area that the Nephilim call their home, and many stories of attacks by horrible creatures come from this place. It's a lush forest teeming with life, and the Fortune River divides it, flowing from the far peaks through Malifaux City and into the Bayou. In ancient times, the true Nephilim lived in the Knotwoods, and as time passed, the Nephilim that we know today divided the area up into different territories. The northern Knotwoods, above the river, are the oldest area, with ancient trees and a close connection to the true Nephilim. Lilith's territory in the Knotwoods was focused on the Broodstone, a large cut of rock with runes that was protected by fortifications. The stone itself was where the Nephilim would go when they were ready to transform, and shamans would perform rituals to allow the growing Nephilim to increase their strength and wisdom. When Nekima took over, she shattered the Broodstone, and it now lays in a broken pile of bodies. Deep in the northern Knotwoods is also where you can find the resting place of Castor. In the southern Knotwoods is a human logging camp called Fortune Falls. The humans there are frequently preyed on by the Nephilim, which prevents them from expanding any further, though their operation still continues. The western Knotwoods are the most isolated, and are currently home to Athana's territory. Deep inside this land is the Black Eyrie, home of the Ada Kithe, a group of never-born shamans who act as keepers of ancient knowledge. The eastern Knotwoods are home to Nekima's territory, full of her violent and strong brood. It also contains the blood pits, depressions in the ground where sacrificed humans are thrown to be fed to the young. This accelerates their growth rapidly. Nekima has no use for anything but a warrior. On the outskirts of the blood pits can be found the Half-Bloods, formerly cast out of Nephilim society, but Nekima has ordered her followers to spare their lives as she finds them useful. This map obviously doesn't cover the entire world of Malifaux, and there are some places that we've heard about but don't know much else. We know that there's another continent that's inhabited by snake-like creatures that made contact with Central America in ancient history. We also know that different parts of the world used to be populated with cities, presumably built by the Fae, and who knows what else. And that's a quick overview of everything outside of Malifaux City. Let me know if anything there sounds really interesting to you, and maybe I'll do a deeper dive video on that in the future. While you're here, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the link to the Discord in the description if you want to come and have a conversation about Malifaux or anything else. Consider signing up for the Patreon if you want to support the channel, or you can buy some of the merch or use the weird affiliate link when you make your next Malifaux purchase. Huge shoutouts to the extremely cool kids here on Patreon, the Steam Powered Scoundrels, Dogmatize, and Biclops Gladiator Games. Thanks for watching.